And in reality, it doesn't. You're not entitled because you're good. You know what I'm saying to you? So and that's what I'm saying about when you end up in relationships, people that are toxic. If you're holding on to that relationship, there's bound to be some level of toxicity in order to keep that relationship together, because that person's coming with toxicity. So, and that's not to say everyone's been not everyone has been in a toxic relationship, so they won't be able to. And toxicity is a very broad, again, subject, a topic, because there are many components to it. You know, and not everyone has necessarily the exact same definition in it as well. But I feel like sometimes, and it's like the Derek Jackson Danae situation all over again. It's like people will only see the aggressor as being the person who was toxic, and it's like no, for Danae to hold on, she had to be of toxic nature herself. The toxicity had infected her. You get what I'm saying to a point now where she has to, in order to even try and keep that relationship, she now is using manipulative tendencies like lying, pretending, feigning. When you start then realizing you have to do these things, you start having to enter into a space which now becomes toxicity. So, you know, it's very hard pressed to be in a toxic relationship and not have it rub off on you, because if you're spending time with that person, they are going to rub off their tendencies on you. You know what I mean? Anybody want to combat that or say something else? Add to that, JR, Mr. Toxic.
What an introduction! Oh my gosh. You all hit like some very relevant and valid points. You know, like there's an element of wanting to keep the peace, and you can get addicted to wanting to keep the peace. You may also get stimulated emotionally by some of the more toxic elements that can develop in your relationship. But, you know, ultimately, you may not know that, you may not realize how much it's affecting you. And it takes a lot of self-analysis, self-awareness to come to that realization that you also may be enabling the behaviors as well, right? And it's very easy to get pulled into that web where you know that, you know, it's crazy, like the back and forths or the arguments or whatever it is you're going through, you know, it's crazy in reality, but because you have an emotional investment or a love connection, or, you know, you kind of want to hope that it's not that bad, and you try to pull through it every single time, right? When probably the best thing to do is to try and nip it in the bud, do the hard thing and walk away. But yeah, it really depends on how connected you are to the person as well, because as you get to know someone, you open yourselves up, and you're vulnerable, and you're expecting the person to respect or at least appreciate what you're doing in that moment. But sometimes it can be the fuel for the toxicity, because like you said, there's an element of manipulation to it, and they can pull on your heartstrings if they know that they've got your heart invested in the relationship. So yeah, you have to have a lot of self-mastery and self-control to not rise to the toxic elements that may arise in the relationship. And it's easier said than done. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's not an easy thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. But like I said, if you have self-awareness and self-analysis, at least you realize your role in it. Even if the person is that way, like, you don't have to be that way. So yeah, like, that's just me being eloquent, trying to put it out there, you know, from my perspective. J King.
Love that. JJ, talk to me. What are you saying? Toxic relationships. Are you a toxic person? Have you been in a toxic relationship? Are you in a toxic relationship? Bro, you're on mute, boy. Blink twice if you need help, though.
I was just saying, I've
don't know where that came from because I'm definitely not in a toxic relationship.
Amen.
I'm in the most healthiest relationship I've been in, but I'll talk about that in a second anyway. But to answer your question first, have I been in them? Hell yes, 1000%. Am I a toxic person? I mean, contrary to what some people might believe in the chat, no. Or let me say it differently. My toxicity has been more in my protection mode, protecting myself after the relationship or after the fact. So if you show me that you have the ability to hurt me and you leave, there is no coming back. I'm not going to call you 10 times, beg you, radio silence. I don't care how I feel about you. I'm not going to give you that chance to hurt me again. That's where I've been. I would say that's where my toxicity was in it. When it comes to my actual relationships, in fact, there's only one person that would say I was toxic, and I'll say she's right because I just didn't care. I think I've talked about this before, but I just didn't care. Like I wanted to be on the streets, but also wanted someone on my arm as well. I should never have been in that situation. She was a problem also. That's it, right? But in general, every other woman would say I am not a toxic partner. / I'm probably one of the best partners they've had. Now, one of the things that even my missus now says is for herself, this is the most healthy relationship that she's been in. And one of the reasons why I also see it that way is because from minute one, boundaries are put in place. Minute one, conversations were had. Minute one, it was like, okay, this is how we're going to, this is how the relationship's going to be led. And this is what's going to continue. Because I'm too old for all that stuff, man. Like, really, it's like toxicity is poison. That's the definition of it, poison. I ain't got time to be inputting poison into a relationship. Why am I in it then if that's what I'm doing? I should stay single. And I haven't got time to be entertaining someone that's like that as well. But what I do agree with anyway is a lot of people don't realize that they are toxic. A lot of people don't realize the poison that they actually exude when they speak. I mean, just from their perspectives to the venom behind their voice, you can really hear that the trauma and what it's done to them. So to the point where we can actually be scared, right? If you was in a relationship right now, I'd be scared for the other person. Even though we understand that what you've been through, but a lot of people don't realize it, and it's funny, man. And I don't know if we're talking about Danae or Derek or anyone else, but what I will say is that sometimes when you don't think that you are, listen to the person that you're going to be with next, because you might start off by saying, "Oh, my ex was this," and okay, but a new person probably be able to see those same things in you. So sometimes it's irrelevant who started it because you never. How would you know? You're not there. But now you're looking at it like, okay, now you're with me. What's going on? What's happening? Do you see this? This. No, we can't deal with this. And that's where I think I put in my Instagram last year. Don't be afraid to talk to exes and tell them to give you an open, frank, and transparent rundown. How was I as a partner? Not every ex you talk to, by the way, but there's certain people you can talk to, and just to gain an understanding, because we all need help. We all need help. Can I say this before I cut off here? Kojo, I commend you for your interview last week. 2 weeks ago, actually. I commend you. The reason being is because I haven't had, I don't have a mentally ill mother, but I've been with women who have been, and that's from hearing voices, being schizophrenic, multiple personality disorders, and a whole bunch of things. And I know how difficult it is. And I've got no time to put myself in those types of situations again, because it's horrible, absolutely horrible. So I get you, my bro. So I respect you for being vulnerable and actually just being honest. And that's one thing that God wants us to be, honest, so you can come in and deal with it, right? And I mention that is because you acknowledging your coping methods in terms of, I don't need you and things like that, that is also toxic behavior, but it's in protection of you. And so these are the things that we also need to address, because sometimes before that toxic person came into our lives, there was something in us that was toxic anyway. We might be responding to them, but what they're doing is not more greater than what we need to work on. That's me.
Goody. Like that. I like that. Good points. So toxicity. Last little few moments, get you guys kind of points on this. Obviously, you guys have given your perspective on whether you are toxic, whether if you've been in a toxic relationship, what you believe toxicity to be. I'm going to ask a question. Do you believe in 2023 we are a more toxic generation than past generations gone? Do you believe that in 2023 we are a generation of toxic people? We have narcissistic Instagram baddies, narcissistic relationship coaches out there, men. Are we having more toxicity out here in 2023 than our predecessors, our parents and their grandparents? Or is this us just being a bit more aware of what is toxic behavior? You know what I mean? Is that the case? Anybody can take it if they feel ready to take it.
I
Go for it,
think
Jeff.
I think it's both. I honestly think, I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. I think just now, with the advancement of technology, we now have different names to subscribe to what we consider toxic. I mean, back in the day, there was never a term such as narcissistic personality disorder, narcissism, or sociopathic tendencies. We never had terminologies for these things. I think we've become more informed, and I think we hear a lot more about these more often because of it being reported. But I think the behaviors have always been there. I think toxicity has always been integrated in human society. It just now has a different face depending on the context and the situation in which it's being presented. So that's what I would say, to be honest. And just to add to your point in regards to toxicity, I think when I think of toxicity, I just think of situations that end up with volatile outcomes depending on the person that you're dealing with. Sometimes you could be influenced by people who are toxic. You could be the person who is the aggressor or the person who's the victim, but then that influence of toxicity does lean onto you, but then how you respond to it will be determining how mature you are in dealing with that. But I think now we have more coping mechanisms and more strategies to deal with such things than we ever did before. So I think we've become a lot more informed, but I think it's just always been there.
I agree with Jeff. All I'll add is that I feel we are definitely more informed, but we are less resilient. So, as I mentioned earlier, our toxicity still comes into it because we're not willing to stick around for some of the smaller things. Because of what we've been through, we're ready to run. But on top of that, I have to also be honest. Some of the things that people experience in this day and age is completely despicable. So I can understand to some degree. So we are really battling from two sides. One, we have increased knowledge, but we're still struggling with our traumas and, you know, the increase of these things being put onto us. So it really is a battle going on.
Wait, Jay, you said about resilience. I think because here's the thing, in our day and age, you've heard that this whole saying, you know, suck it up, get over it, right? You got to toughen up in certain situations and scenarios. I think sometimes the messaging and how we deal with different difficult situations, and I think there's also a misappropriation of the word toxic. I would say, yeah, in some instances people are no longer resilient to deal with pain. Sometimes pain can be healthy depending on the situation, but I think there's a misappropriation of how toxic is just being thrown around, because I believe there are toxic situations, but there's a different spectrum and how people, and I think it's also the perception of what people consider to be toxic as well. That could also be creating more of a confusion now more than ever before.
I think, I guess this is where we use the term words have meanings. So when I use the term toxic, it's based on what the dictionary says, which is poisonous. So to me, it's behavior that is poisonous to the healthy relationship or marriage that you say that you want. Yep. That's my definition on that. So yeah, and I know a lot of people may not see that they're in those types of situations. Some things might be normal, so they might not even label certain things toxic, which I understand. It's, you know, we all have our own upbringing, own environments, survival, whatever it needs to be. But that's just how I look at it, and that's how I'm quite strong with it. You know, dealing with people from a counseling perspective that try to reason with these things and make these things okay, even though it's damaging them on the inside. So this is why, again, I look at it as we don't have the resilience because we are not prepared to make things work. But it's also because of all the things that I'll say mostly women, but although men are catching up in terms of expressing how they feel. But everything that has coming from behind us that's made us who we are today has made us weak in that department. So again, we're battling from two sides because there's a lot of people until they're healed, when they do decide to make things work, they're making things work with poison, which doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. That's not possible. You know, a concoction of poison is never going to be sweet wine. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, I think we're in trouble as people, man. To be honest with you, we really are in trouble.
Do you? This might be, I don't know. This might be segueing into a different thing. Do you think socioeconomic backgrounds can also have a correlation towards people having toxic behavior, or something that is just ingrained into society? I'm just curious because you hear whether people growing from poor, impoverished backgrounds, lack of education, that they are not even aware of them even having toxic tendencies at times. So could that also be a factor that could influence people in certain behavioral traits that we would say is toxic, but they will say it's the norm?
Not having money is trauma in itself. You know, all the things that you have to try and make do. I've been there where every day, gosh, like I really thank God for where I am now, because I've been there, and it can cause a lot more arguments, a lot more issues. It can cause you mental illness, and it really does all depend on how you deal with it. And when we look at, I don't want to get all academic, but when we look at the American dream and things like that, we look at certain texts, you can see that them coming together with a particular like mind was increasing the trauma because of their environment. So yeah, 100%. And I think there's people who have come from that environment and there are people who haven't. When they get together, they always say it's a very interesting dynamic because they did not realize the extent of what some of these people have had to put up with. And they feel, oh, just work hard, just do what you need to do, etc. But there's a lot going on up here that is just not as easy as just to talk about like that. So yeah, 100%. It's one of many things. There's crossovers, but it's one of many. And it doesn't go for everyone. I would say that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like Jeff said, we didn't have language for some of the experiences that we've had. For some of us, we didn't even realize that we were being abused, like straight up. There were experiences that we had in our lives that now that we are older and in this generation, we're like, oh, that wasn't cool, but I didn't know it had a name. And to Jason's point about resilience, and it's something you said earlier, Precious, you talked about the pendulum swing of humanity, and that people have a tendency to swing from one extreme to the other, or at least that's what I interpreted about what you said. And I think that in this generation, we are talking about the things that have happened to us, but I also think that there is a step beyond that. I don't believe that you need to be on a perpetual healing journey, and I believe that you can go from healing to healed. So what I'm hoping is that future generations explore what is beyond trauma and what is beyond abuse and what is beyond survival. And that's my desire to see.
Okay. I like it. Since obviously we're talking about toxicity, I guess we can shift it slightly. At what point does one have to say they should let their ex go? Let me be a little bit more specific and say, let me give it a part one. At what point do you no longer want to hear your friend talk about their ex no more? Let me be specific. At what point do you say to yourself, God damn, they've been talking about this ex for a time. You get me? At what point does it get to a point where you're just like, you just need to let this go? You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure we're gonna have different answers, but I would love to hear your answers. At what point, and maybe you can use some personal experience and, help, with other people in terms of maybe your own experience of maybe being in a relationship and having to let someone go. At what point do you have to let someone go and be like, hey, that's my ex, let me let that go? Or, do you know what I mean? Do you just keep grinding until they come back to you again? You know what I mean? Like, do you hit the email, the BlackBerry? You hit the BBM? Do you hit the, hit them on iMessage? Yeah. Gmail? Yeah. Yahoo? Shoot. You even go to their gym if you need to, type in the code and see them. I'm just saying, we've all done crazy things in the past. But I'm just wondering, obviously, I've never done that, guys, don't worry. I've only run naked to the house, but listen, obviously, so when you're talking, obviously letting it go, what at what point do you have to let it go, guys? At what point are we letting it go? Talk to me. Or should I say this? At what point does it become toxic that you haven't let this go? Maybe that's a better answer.
Bruh, moment I stop. Listen, if I keep on harping on and on and on about my ex, who I'm not currently seeing like that, and it's getting in the way of actually me living my life, honestly, that is when I have to let it go, because at the end of the day, I'm self-sabotaging my own happiness. I'm self-sabotaging my own journey. My ex is not thinking about me 24/7. She's not in my messages. We've stopped talking. So why should I entertain a fantasy of what she's now my ex for a reason, meaning that I've X'd that out of my life. And if I'm continuously living in this mind where I'm over and over again indulging in something that is never going to happen, if I'm now thinking about the what if this could have been, or I'm thinking about maybe I should have told her this, if I'm living a life of constant regret, I'm self-sabotaging. Meanwhile, she's going off to live her life, and what am I doing? I'm still stagnant. I'm not focusing on my purpose. I'm not actually living life to the fullest. I'm not doing constructive things to get myself out of this funk. If anything, I'm not properly dealing with the issue for what it is. And the issue at that point, it's not even my ex, it's me. Because I'm allowing myself so much to dwell upon the past. I'm not learning from it. I'm anchored to it. And now I'm creating a whole bunch of extra narratives on top of that to try and justify me being comfortable in a place of catharsis. So at that point, if I'm now overindulging in the memory of what will never be, that is when I have to let this person go completely. And now I have to seek help. I now have to now say, you know what, enough is enough. I can't be throwing a pity party. And at the end of the day, let's hypothetically say I was to, meet up my ex somewhere. How would I react? At that point, I have not changed. She probably has gone through a whole bunch of changes. Who knows? People change. I am still in that same frame as I was before. So I've not matured. So really and truly, I owe it more so to God. I owe it to myself. I owe it to the people that I love to make that conscious effort, that change, to just simply be better. Not for my ex, no. To be better for the people that actually are for me, and also for myself too, for my own development. So that's what I would say. There's no point. This self-pity, you have to acknowledge the pain, but then once you acknowledge it, you really have to do the work to move on and live your life, because no one's going to live it for you.
Point. Who wants to go next? When is it time to let go, baby?
I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there contemplating, and I've got a big thing about what feels real versus what is actually true.
Ooh.
And if I'm in a scenario where I've experienced a breakup, I have to ask myself, what feels real versus what is actually true. And I think sometimes we can delay moving on because we blur the lines between true and real. So if I get dumped, for example, then I might be in pain because I believe, I don't know, that no man's ever going to love me, or I'm just going to get rejected all the time. This is just hypothetically. But when you look at the truth, and it's not truthing, it's just easy to be able to just let it go, because you're like, there's one element where you miss the person and you're sad and you're processing your feelings, but there are other things that we can take on and be suffering for that aren't true. And so when I experience things, I like to separate one from the other. And I find that that helps me move on a lot quicker than I would have, if that makes sense.
Also,
Okay.
Kojo, to add on to a particular point that Sean made in terms of moving on, I think removing particular things that is going to cause sometimes automatic triggers, right? Sometimes could also help. So, and I think it's also to do with your own mindset. I mean, in my previous relationship, this is so stupid, but I remember there were particular songs I like listening to that would make me think about my ex, right? There were some songs I'll be oh geez, there were some songs, like, I'm such a romantic at heart sometimes. Those like particular sad songs I'll be playing literally, yeah, and just hearing these things over and over again will literally be making me more upset and literally crying to tears thinking about her. I mean, losing her and stuff like that. It you know, there's certain lyrics here that simply do it for you, and you're thinking, oh, leave me now, I'm never going to be able to find someone for me. And then also when you got family members that are literally telling, oh Jeff, it come to so and so's wedding, and you're literally burning inside because you're literally looking at other people living the life that you wish you could live, and you're now comparing yourself to the people. That's another situation that is, and a thing that stops you from your own development, because you're thinking, oh, I could have made this work on my ex and it could have been us. So it's like the music, the comparisons of things, and then going over the pictures that you used to guys look at. Oh, look at us. Look how great we were together. I'm literally just creating this whole flipping fantasy in my own, but I'm creating a fantasy that it's never going to be what it is. I think the difficulty is it's choosing to escape that fantasy and actually go into reality. That's really what it is. It's saying, you know what, it's time to come out of cloud cuckoo land and literally now live true life, where you're actually, yes, you're going to go through pain, yes, you're going to go through hard times, and you're not going to see the results you want to see in the immediate sense, but you have to put in the work, because again, time waits for no man, so nobody's going to do it for you. And it was a tough situation, but by the grace of God, I had my fam, I had my accountability partners and my friends to literally just simply put me on a straight and narrow. And I think some people don't even have that. They don't have those resources to turn to like that. So they find it very difficult, and they keep harping over their exes over and over again, you know?
Next. I'm sorry, I'm listening to Blackstreet, Don't Leave Me. And I was just started thinking of what you were saying. I was like, oh. Yeah, songs that will send you back to the realms of that spirit, boy. Jay, I'll go for it.
Yeah, that's why you don't. Yeah, that's why you don't want to listen to those songs too hard, you know, because they'll have you all up in your feelings. Like, man, but you know, let's be real. That's what those songs are for, right? And they hit in a different way when you've gone through, you know, that relationship where it's unfortunately unraveled and turned into the toxic relationship that we're talking about, right? But at what point is, do you let your ex go? I think you let your ex go either when something is too egregious that took place. You can't always try to find the good in them to keep you there, because like Jay said, is poison. You're really compromising and sacrificing who you really are in order to accommodate this person bringing these elements into your life. And so you should always, if you can do it, snap out of that dream of thinking about what could have been, what it once was. Sometimes you have to realize it may never get back on track. And, it's always great to have a support system, but your support system should be able to tell you if you are, harping on about that person a lot, and you take stock of that, and then you decide to put your best foot forward and move on in a different direction. Because let's be real, like, a lot of memories are created in relationships, good and bad ones. And sometimes you give the person the benefit of the doubt, but when it's a consistent theme, then you have to kind of, take your licks and say, listen, maybe you're enabling it. So yeah, it should never get to a place where all you do is speak about them, because then you're actually showing that you've been so damaged by what happened that it may take a long while for you to get back in the game and find yourself. And it's easy to lose yourself in a relationship when there's love involved. So you really want to, again, use that self-awareness, that self-analysis, do self-diagnostics. What is it that you miss about the person? What is it that, keeps you thinking about them or thinking there's always going to be another chance? And that's going to be the root cause of why you keep opening the gates for them to come back. And that's not always going to be the best thing to do. So yeah, that's my take.
Appreciate it, JR. You ever hold on? Have you ever held on too long, JR?
Now, Kojo, you already know. That's the way trying to draw me out like that, bro. What did I do, Kojo, man? What did I do? Is it from yesterday? Is it you trying to get payback?
I just wondering, I'm just wondering, like.
I have. Like, I definitely did. Like, like I said, giving the benefit of the doubt, and like, you want to always harp back to what attracted you to the person in the beginning, and you think that that person's going to be the same way, when really they've graduated, they've evolved as the relationship's progressed, and so have you. And where at one time you probably brought the best out in each other, when it starts to become that you're bringing the worst out in each other, then that's when it's time to press the eject button.
I hear that still. Did you ever like? No, just okay.
Love me, bro.
I'm not gonna do you like that. Who hasn't spoken yet? Ask that question.
I'm waiting for Precious.
We are all waiting for Precious.
Trust me.
Wow.
Precious, when if you hold on.
All right, can I just clarify something?
Yeah.
Go. I got your back babe.
Thank you, Johnny. So because I'm getting two very different messages here, so I just want to clarify. So is this letting go of your ex while you're in a relationship with them, or is this after you've broken up and you're thinking about how to let go of the fact that it's over?
I think both are equally as important, to be honest.
Yep.
I was more thinking this. Yeah, I was thinking the end, but you can take it any way you want.
Yeah, because I was assuming the end, but some people are answering it both ways. I guess the first one, it really just depends on your experience, because I think sometimes we hold on to things because we are either in some form of limerence, or we are hopeful or trying to hope that we can fix it. And I do think that a lot of the times, if it's not a toxic relationship and maybe it's just you're having issues, it can be fixed. But again, it has to be on both sides. You can't fix a relationship if only one person is willing to fix it. So that's, and I think when you can see that you're the only one that's willing to fix it, that's probably the point where you should then, for your sake, just say, well, okay, that's fine, we'll let this go. Because it will just all round, it will help everyone involved, I think. Gosh, why did you just put song lyrics in the chat? I just noticed Kojo put something in the chat. I'm like, wait, what? Anyways, but I think when you break up with somebody, I think it's tricky. Again, it's down to, I guess, one, how long you've been with them. And even if you haven't been with them that long, how connected did you feel with them? Was it your choice to end the relationship or not? Even if it was, it can still be a difficult thing to let go of somebody, even if you did decide to end the relationship. I think the point in which you have to decide to move on is, honestly, I think it's from the moment that you break up, honestly. I think you have to start taking intentional steps to move on. Now, look, life sometimes, who knows, you could end up getting back together with that person in a few years. You just never know. But I think the reality of the situation is, from the moment that the relationship has officially been over, you have to start, taking those baby steps to move on, because you're going to reflect on things that weren't completely right with the relationship, things that you may have done that could have made the relationship more difficult for yourself, for the other person, things that you could have done better. You're going to take this time to work on yourself, to change, and not to be self-reflective and to the point of destroying yourself, to be self-reflective with compassion, with self-compassion, and going, you were in you always know more after the fact. That's part of life. So while you're in it, you may not know as much as you're going to know afterwards. So that's fine. You give yourself the break for that. And you give yourself the space to realign yourself with your needs, what you need, what you want, what makes you happy, what makes you feel like you're growing and you're learning and you're being a better person. But it's, of course, normal to hold on to things that you liked about the person, things that you felt that were egregious, or things that you felt resentful towards as a result of the relationship. There's going to be a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of just disappointment, and all those things are very normal. I think sometimes people try to rush past all of those feelings, and then they'll do the big, oh, I'm done, I'm over, I'm living the good life. And then 3-4 months down the line, it hits them like a truck, because you're not dealing with it. And of course, social media will show you, the highlights of someone's life. Someone could be crying their eyes out, but on social media, they look like everything's normal. That's just how it is. You never know what someone's experiencing. And that could be even with your ex. Your ex could be upset. You don't know, because it looks fine on social media. And that makes you feel upset, because you're thinking, now I'm the only one in this now. Why am I the only one in this that's feeling this? But again, it's like what Charlene said, what is real and what is what you think is real. And the only thing that is real is how you feel, because that's the only thing that you can be certain of. That's the only thing that you can say with 100% certainty. This is how I feel. This is what I'm going through. You can't say what's going through someone else's head, what they are experiencing, anything like that. But you can be certain about how you're dealing with it and how best to deal with it. So I think, give yourself that space to feel upset and to feel sad and to feel disappointed, because all those emotions are so completely normal. But I think once you get past that initial floodgates of those really negative emotions, and it's best to feel them, because then you can get through them, then you can have the moments where you could be a bit more self-reflective and say, what have I learned? what am I grateful for? What am I going to take from that? You know, you'll have moments where you'll be remembering things that you were happy or sad about. You might be serenading yourself like Kojo's doing right now. All these things are happening, but it's a situation where you just have to allow yourself to feel those things. You have to be self-reflective and find what you can learn from it, and most importantly, find what you can be grateful for. Because if you can find what you can be grateful for, it will prevent the resentment that you might feel towards that ex for whatever has happened in that relationship. There's always something to be grateful for. And that might be, you might be grateful that you're not with them anymore. That might be what it is. Be grateful for that. So there's so much that you can find from these situations and so much you can learn. And I know it sounds a bit cliche. It's a lot easier said than done. Trust me. But I think you get to a point where you're able to, feel like you're healing and then you'll get healed. And you'll be able to have that time where you can fully move on without feeling like you're lying to yourself. And as for talking about it to your friends, honestly, you know what? I'm the person where I'm okay with you if you want to keep talking about your ex. It's fine. I get it. It's hard. Breakups are really hard. I think it's important to help. I think the best thing to do is to help validate that person, give them that space to talk, validate how they're feeling. You don't have to agree or disagree, but you just have to give them that space to really be able to tell their story and how they feel. Because a lot of times what happens is when your friends are so quick to try and rush you out of that point of feeling all your emotions, you end up closing up, not saying anything, and then you ruminate over it for forever. And that's when it becomes obsessive, and now you're obsessed about the fact that you've broken up with this person. You never, all of these things. Sometimes it's nice to give your friends that safe space to say, you know what, talk to me. I'm listening. How are you feeling? What's happening? What's going on for you? I know sometimes it can get a bit much. And in those times, there's a gentle way of creating those boundaries, of gently being able to pivot the conversation, distract. But I think in all, breakups are hard, guys. You just got to give people hugs and, give them that safe space and let them just get through it, because life be life in. So just have to be kind and compassionate to yourselves and to other people. That's my run over. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? At what point does it become toxic if you haven't let go? Do you guys have none of you don't have stories? None of you have held on too long. None of you have held on to the fingertips of that woman a little bit too long. You know what I mean? Yeah, none of you done that kind of stuff.
I can give you stories.
Clearly, I'm the only crazy one here. Yeah.
Like,
Jeff, go, Jace.
you are the craziest one here, but I can give you stories.
Amen to that.
We want to hear some of the stories. We want to hear some of these stories, guys. Jay, Charlene, Jeff, JR, Precious. Y'all acting as if none of you are crazy enough in this love stuff.
I don't have nothing. I have nothing.
She has nothing.
Right, sure, but okay. Anyway, okay, I'll give you a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was with a girl for maybe 4 or 5 months, and I knew after 4 or 5 months, I said, this is done. I'm not going to put up with this type of behavior anymore. The problem, on the same day, I ruptured my Achilles tendon. So she came with me to the hospital. So I couldn't do it there, and I couldn't end it there, and I couldn't do anything. Long story short, we stayed together for just over a year. And it was an extremely toxic relationship. And one of the things that as guys, I guess it's a different conversation to have, it's we quite early know it's a problem. But our issue is actually leaving. That's our issue. And it's because it's a catch-22 situation. Whether it's people are just not really going to take on board the reasons why we left. We're going to be called villains. We're going to be called all these different types of things. Even though, yeah, we both are in a relationship, but the predominant problem is not likely to be us in these particular situations. So that was for me. So in this particular situation, I stayed way too long, put up with way too much crazy. And this person was someone who was hearing voices, who had a family history of multiple personalities. So I had extreme concern that I don't want to bring my children up in this environment. I don't want to even expose my oldest daughter, you know, who was at the time maybe 10 or something like that, to this anymore. So that was hard. That was extremely hard. And it was her that eventually, you know, decided to walk away. And that was painful for me because of the amount of investment that I put into the situation. Because it was over a year ago that I said I want to leave. So you can imagine, in order to stay, how much I had to invest. And when she left, I had to tell myself, she's reminding me that we're not married. She's reminding me that I can still walk away myself, because it's not her that I want. It's not the relationship that I want. I'm just in pain because of everything that's happened. So I just set my mind on God, just sat down, I was quiet. There were some days I didn't even speak to anyone. Like, I was really in my mode to try and deal with the situation. But I came out of it, and she did try to come back with all the sorries. But at that point, I would say I'm missing out some details. I could talk about this for hours, but at that point, I realized, you know what, the power was back in my court. I know that's a trigger word to some people, not in a manipulative way. Relax, calm down. What I mean is, I realized for myself, I can say no. I don't need to be in this anymore. So I said no. And she tried to say all the different types of things to try and get at me. I didn't even really care. There's some juicy stuff I can say, but again, I don't want to take up all of this, right? But yeah, so that's one of my situations. There was another situation where, once again, I got with her out of convenience, extremely toxic relationship, and I used God as a cop-out, all right? I did it. I used God as a cop-out. I knew it was time to leave for months. And I said, you know what? I just want to go to church, and I just want to receive my answer and all that stuff. And went to church, not my church now, it was a different church. And the pastor said, turn to the person to your right and say that you love them. And I couldn't do that. All right. And I couldn't do that.
God, you're bad, man, for that.
Do you know what it was? It's because he kept doing it. He's on mute. All you can hear is the echo.
I know.
He's so ridiculous.
Lord.
He's so trouble. What was that? You're on mute, Kojo. You can see the background echo of Jesus is Lord. Going.
That's the voices you were talking about hearing earlier.
Oh, don't. No. We're not going to start making jokes about it. No, we're not doing that, guys. Let's not do that.
My bad, Jay.
It's all good, bro.
Kojo, you're...
Continue, Jay. My bad. Sorry.
I own it. I did it.
Oh.
How are you going to
Sorry,
ask
bro.
the man to continue when you sabotage his thing like that?
No, thank you.
So,
I was trying to ignore
Jay,
it, but don't worry.
so Jay King, like, so what I'm getting is, like, as soon as the Achilles healed, you were able to get up and walk away.
Come
I wasn't
on.
able to, so I didn't. Oh, I see what you did.
That was so smooth, JR.
That's
Smooth.
great. Don't worry.
Boss.
JR, man, I can't believe you. He was
By the
waiting
way-
for that Achilles heel joke.
Everyone in the chat, yeah, this is how we talk in our private chat. This is where we're all relaxed and cool.
No,
We have
I
big
mean,
banter.
at the end of the day, he got a leg up. He got a leg up on the situation, so it's
There
what
we
it is.
go. Give it to me. I give it to you all the time. Come on, continue.
Wow, is all I'm going to say.
Funke.
But anyway, I used God as the excuse to get out of a toxic situation, but she decided to use. Well, I allowed myself to be manipulated, and she used the obvious thing to try and get me to come back, and I fell hook, line, and sinker until I decided I couldn't do that anymore. Sex, basically, right? Okay. Kojo's face is confused, and I said I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to be that guy. But I had to. The way I put it is like I had to rip myself from the situation, and which makes me think a lot of us really are not dealing with love and things like that. The problem is attachment. and attachment and trauma is causing us problems in our judgment in when and how we walk away, which is another issue. I remember when I was separated, I didn't want the marriage again. For me, it was, if this is what God wants, this is what God wants. If he doesn't, I'm cool either way. It's up to him and how he guides me from this point onwards. Literally 100%, it's all I need to do is work on myself, right? And I think, Precious, because you mentioned about the bitterness and things like that, I had those severely. And sometimes I'll find myself giving myself a headache, thinking all the negative things, all the anger, all the things that, you know, we see what's happening in society today in terms of how they speak about men, how they speak about women. I had all of that internally, but I said, I can't be that type of person. So I would, after I realized like 10, 20 seconds of thinking so negatively, I would literally shut my brain down and said, listen, stop it. Do not do this. And I would just go into a self-reflection mode. And that's even painful in itself, because there are things, like you said, Precious, that you realize afterwards and you think, wow, I really put up with that, or I really did that. Like, what type of ridiculousness? And for me, I really had to spend some time just looking at this, being okay to look into all of it. I think there's a sweet, okay, not everyone can do it, but there is a sweetness about looking at yourself in the mirror. I know it's hard, but there is a sweetness, because the relief, what comes from it, is absolutely wonderful. And I agree with what Charlene said in terms of not everyone's going to be healing for life. That's not everyone's story. And it's not, and you know, there might be some things that you might still find an issue, but there are other things that are not an issue for you anymore. And that's the sweet spot where we all need to, you know, be ourselves in. So that's why I say it again, looking at yourself in the mirror is a wonderful thing if you allow yourself to go through it. It's painful, but learning and then growing from it, you know, not making the same mistakes, being a better person, allowing that to ground you, allowing those things to, you know, they're your foundation in terms of what you've learned and your wisdom, but telling yourself, but they will not be your identity. You know, too many people find their identity in the pain and the trauma and the attachment. This is all part of the problem. You need to be able to let go. It's hard, but you need to tell yourself, I need to, like Charlene said, I need to accept the reality. I find too many people are, you know, they want to stay in the delusion. It's comfortable. It's nice. It's wonderful. I get it, but it will destroy you in the end. And for me, I've been very good at dealing with the reality in the relationships, which is why it's never been hard for me in terms of, you know, I've heard guys calling women from 20, 30 different phone numbers, calling down the line, turning up at the house. That would never be me. Absolutely not. So who you calling, Kojo? Who you calling? Okay, I see. All right. I see. Okay.
Dark cat. Mr. Dark
You caught him in the act.
There you go. So these are some of my experiences. Again, I can go into so much more detail. That would be great, but it's not the time for it. But yeah, man, it's been a journey and a half. So for me, after the fact, it's been quite easy, as I explained earlier. My issue has always been walking away during, even when I know there is no return here. If we break up, I don't want you. So why am I still here?
I think also a lot of the bitterness that comes can also be from you experiencing a point in which you were like, oh, this is not for me, but you stayed anyway. So the bitterness that you feel is that that person beat you to it in a way sometimes. And there's a bit of a resentment because you feel like you self-sabotaged yourself by not leaving when you felt you should have left, and that you stayed in something longer than you should have stayed in it. So you almost what's the word? You almost sort of like sacrificed yourself and your happiness in a way. And then when it ends, you're kind of like, I could have avoided all of this if I had just left when I should have left. So that some of the bitterness comes from that as well. Some of the resentment comes from that. But I think, you know, it's difficult. You don't ever want to put yourself in a position when you're running after something that isn't actually there. You're kind of running after a fantasy that you might have built up in your head, a fantasy that you want because that's what you want. You want to have a healthy relationship, a loving thing that happens. But when that potential is kind of taken away from you, you have to sort of reconcile with what is left. And that's the reality, I guess you're talking about, Jay, of like, this is what is left and this is the reality. But there's as you said, being self-reflective is useful because there's a lot of hope in that, because it means if you're proactive and you actually start the work, you've got so much to look forward to. You've got a healthy relationship, a happy relationship to look forward to in the future. You've got a healthier, happier version of yourself to look forward to in the future. And that kind of, I guess, happiness that, you know, you don't have to ever go through that situation again, because you would actually have learned from it and grown from it. So instead of kind of mourning a situation that you could go back to, you could actually celebrate in the hopes of what you actually can look forward to, of this new version of you, this new version of this reality that actually would suit you better. And there's so much hope in that. And granted, I'm somebody who's also have seen both happen, where sometimes that future ends up with the person that you didn't think was going to end up with, because you had already ended the relationship, but because you both have changed, it works. But even if that's not the case, even if it's a brand new person, now you've got a better chance of being happier because you've done the work that kind of puts you at least 50% of the way into that, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Can I say something? Because I'm looking at the chat and I'm like, you got the wrong end of the stick. I didn't use her for anything. There was nothing that I used her for. What I meant was, I was at a hospital already. She came to visit. It would have been very deep if I said to her, I don't want to be with you at that moment in time. It would be very wicked. It's a catch-22 situation. You know, I've come to see you in the hospital. It would be a problematic situation. After that, she didn't take care of me or come to my house or give me nothing like that. I dealt with myself. You know, she was over there, I was over here. We had a problematic relationship, so it wasn't this nice, you know, this person is serving me situation. So relax, right? My whole thing was, after that moment, I felt it would be deep for me to do that. The least I could do is try to make it work, because she has shown me a different side that I wasn't seeing for all of these months. But it was still a problem. Koja, you're trying to get, I can hear you. I can hear it.
Oh my days.
But I wasn't the situation. No. I just thought I'd be an extremely bad guy if I did that in that situation. That's what it was.
Hey, you couldn't leg it before, so yeah, you can leg it now.
Wow.
It's not like he couldn't leg it. He didn't want to leg it. Yeah? Had an extra leg. That's the problem.
Does anyone want to know more information? Was it selfish? No, because she didn't help me. She didn't. Like I said, it wasn't like I had a wife in my house coming to help me get this and get that. That wasn't a situation. It was just me. In fact, it was even.
Was it that you just felt awkward having to, because it just didn't feel like the right moment to have to say and have that talk? Look, but I think they're questioning the fact that it went on for like another 7 months after that. Is probably what they're questioning.
I feel like I should try again.
Okay.
And that's why I say it's about, when do you walk away as guys? Because of the catch-22 situation, as we're now seeing, as we're now experiencing.
Is it because she showed up for you in that moment and you were like, let me try again?
Yeah, and I hadn't been seeing that for a month. So that made me think, okay, maybe there is hope. Maybe there is a side of her that's there, and maybe it's other things that are at play that are causing this. So again, someone used the word breadcrumbing, right? This could be an example. She gave me crumbs of herself. Made me think maybe I should stay. And so I stayed. Until...
You were a double victim.
So...
double victim.
Please, unless you want people to come for me again, I cannot confirm or deny that.
So he was a double victim. Under oppression.
Hey.
You just got to ask the right questions, guys. That's all.
Yeah. And like they really say, you just got to snap back to reality. That's what you got to do, man.
back to right.
I hear you, Jason. You were a victim twice, and sometimes these things do happen, sir. You know what I mean? You were in hospital and you had a partner at the time who didn't really care about you the way she needed to. And bro, that's a double victim you were there. So I feel you, bro. I feel
That's
you.
a real situation to be in when you're at a weak spot and the person with you is not showing up in the way that you want them to show up, and you feel more lonely than you were when you were by yourself. It's a real thing.
Thank you,
It's a real
family. I
thing.
appreciate you. Thank
Oh, Lord have mercy. You have to ruin it. You have to ruin it.
Okay. All right. Final leg of the
Can I say
conversation. Then
something?
we're gonna shift. Oh yes, Shirley, go for it.
Something that you said, Precious, about you touched on the part of the question which was about how long do you give your friends to talk to you about breakups. Now, I've had scenarios where I've had my closest people vent and rant, not about exes per se, but the same thing. And it was happening for years at this point. And for my own space, I had to start really clamping down on the amount that people vented and ranted to me, because I noticed that it felt like I was being emotionally dumped on. Now, one of my favorite things to do with people that I love is to hold space, but it's the venting. I can only take so much of it. And I, like you, Precious, I believe that people shouldn't be rushed through. There is a process when you have experienced a breakup. There is a process, and you would do well to go through all of the steps so that when you do get to the end, you've actually healed and you actually can move on properly. But whilst I like holding space, I find the venting quite difficult. And I wondered if anyone else has the same kind of opinion. Not about listening, not about holding space or being a strong shoulder, but about the venting specifically.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if somebody is excessively venting and at least if it's the same things that are being said in a sort of circular way, then yeah, it can become quite frustrating, because it can be sort of a unshiftable thought process, or it becomes rumination, essentially, like verbal rumination. So yes, of course, that's hard, and I think in those cases you're very much entitled to maintain your boundaries, and kind of try and I guess come to a natural point if it's becoming too much. I think when you're holding the space, you give them that point to just, get it out and speak. And a lot of the times it's easy to just listen and not say much. But of course, you have also your entitlement to draw your boundaries of where it might be becoming a bit too much and you might have to say something. But I guess if it gets to that point, then that's the point in which I would assume some form of professional help might be more useful than venting to friends. Like getting a therapist in that point might be, if it's becoming that excessive, yeah, it might be useful to see a professional rather than venting to friends.
Yeah, the danger with venting to friends is, like you said in the theme, it's like sometimes your friends are just like, listen, I don't want to hear about that no more. Right? And it's a good thing when you do have a support network, but they're not there for you to emotionally dump on, because they have their own stuff going on too. And if everybody dumps on everybody their problems, trust me, it could be a depressing place. 87% of the information we hear every day is negative. So, you need to have friends that can uplift you, or family that can uplift you, or people around you that can, I want to say, distract you from getting back into that bubble where you're constantly recycling memories and stuff you went through and events and things that transpired. Because, you know, it can become a very monotonous theme, and your people might start abandoning you, not want to hang around you no more, because they know that every time something happens, it's going to trigger you going into replay about what you went through. And I'm not sure if it's actually different between men and women, but I get the impression that it is. I get the impression that, you know, not to necessarily start the gender war or anything, but, you know, for ladies, you often can share a lot of your relationship experiences with your circle. And they'll, you know, you have your ride or die girls that will run along with it. Either they've experienced something or similar, or they've watched you go through it. So they're more open to ranting with you. Like, it becomes a chorus. Like, you want to all join in and chime in on what happened and all the rest of it. Whereas for guys, it's different. Like, we're expected to be strong and silent. For one, that's the pressure society put on us. So when we do start to vocalize what we go through, it can quite easily be labeled, or, you know, we get shut down. And then sometimes it can feel like, wow, we ain't got nowhere to turn. And that's one of the reasons why I think the self-termination rate is so high, because a lot of the time we don't have the outlets, we don't have the support network necessary to articulate how we really feel when we're going through some of these things. So I think, yeah, like, if you know someone that's going through something that is a matter of the heart, remember that love can make you do some crazy things. And one of them may be to stay in a situation longer than necessary. But if you have someone in your circle that is coming to you as a confidant or as a friend or whatever, and they're like, it's literally a cry for help that they're doing. They may not be saying, listen, help me, bro, I'm stuck right now. No. But if they're in that repetitive cycle, also be vigilant as that friend that's being vented to on how you manage and handle the situation. Because if you close that connection where they can be vulnerable with you, you don't know the battles that they're fighting internally that may take it a different direction. So I just thought I'd add that.
Beautiful stuff. All right, let's shift it. So we've got last half now. Tyrese, he has been a subject, obviously, because obviously he's been talking about his ex of previous late. I don't know if I can get a clip. I'll try and see if I can get a clip for you guys. Hopefully my internet will not freeze. But he's been talking, obviously, about his situation with Samantha Lee. I think a lot of conversation you guys were having was quite interesting, because it was talking about the dialogue in terms of how much is too much, for a man specifically, like, is Tyrese venting too much? Is it if it was a lady, would it be too much? If it was is it because he's a man that we're looking at him in a particular way? I want to know what you guys were thinking. Let me see if I can get a clip for you guys, and so you can play it and see. They're definitely coming for you, Jay. So just to let you know, you're going to be explaining yourself tonight to these audience members. They definitely want to know what happened to your 7 months. Let me just see if I can bring this to the foreground without my internet for freeze. And yes way. All right, I think we're getting there, but it's gonna be a little bit slow. Take a look at me now.
Is this the woman that Tyrese was like? Sorry.
Go for it.
I was just gonna know, is this the woman that Tyrese was like, oh, she's black, and then she came out and was like, no, I'm not black?
I'm not sure. Probably is, knowing him.
His new girlfriend.
This is old girlfriend. This is old girlfriend. So this is what he was saying. And we'll play it.
Like, my whole marriage was just a big fucking joke, just a transaction. Got married to do it for the rest of my life, but I guess it was all a game to her. So it is what it is. What it is. Where I feel sad, me, that means the world to me. And I think what I know about music, or what I know about art, I know about poetry, from a place. When you do it from the heart, that's when it affects hearts. So I'm just grateful. I know my divorce has been playing out for the world to see. I know I done moved on. I'm in another situation that I'm in love with this girl and I'm with her. But reality is reality. First of all, y'all are bullies. All of y'all are bullies. Okay? I'm over here like, I'm not releasing my album this year. I'm going to push it back. And all this love and all this energy, y'all are forcing me to do some shit I don't want to do. I did not even want to release a second single. And y'all have forced me to do it. And so now it's out. It's live. Love Transaction. Tyrese Love Transaction. I felt like my whole marriage was just a big fucking joke.
I hope it didn't freeze for you guys. So I don't know if you actually did. You get to hear it, guys, or did it freeze? I wasn't sure if it froze.
It was fine.
You heard it.
Oh my god! Somebody in the chat just brought out the tiny violins for
Damn, you girls are
I love that. If any,
you guys went in to talk to me.
Yeah, it looks like Tyrese is really he's really hot about the relationship, for one, because it's not the first time that he's gone on live talking about it, obviously, which is why we have this title on this particular evening. But I think the thing that sent him over the edge is the most recent child support case, where he now forks out, I can't remember how many hundreds of thousands it is, but per month, but it's a crazy amount. Yeah, so he was trying to fight vociferously to not make that happen, and now that it has, you have to remember as well, like, he's an actor, so, and he's not in everything. He's not, he's probably had his best years, to be honest, where he's been everywhere, like made his money, but unfortunately his work is kind of depending on which projects he picks up and what he gets casted for. It's not going to be consistent. So him moving on to a new relationship, having that financial anchor, that's why he's hot. But at the end of the day, this is the downside of relationships that don't work. If you get into a relationship, a marriage, for a few years it might go well, and then ultimately the kids come and then it breaks up, and now you're left paying for the children, and it may not be an amount that you can agree on with your partner, ex-partner. So when the courts take the matter into consideration, they're going to base it on how much your net worth is, or whatever it is their criteria is, and you're stuck. So there's no point complaining about it, Tyrese. It's tough, but you should be doing it privately with your homies. Hopefully they have support, or your family members. I'm sure the kids get to see their grandparents if they do, I don't know. But, posting about her, like, he does need to let it go and move on. Just keep it quiet, man. Keep it silent, because she posts as well, and it just looks like a back and forth. And I don't think in his line of work, being a very popular celebrity, like I said, may have had his heyday. The Fast and Furious movies have reached like 10 sequels, for goodness sake. So we've seen enough of Tyrese. And Transformers, maybe about 5-6 movies. So, he's made his money. But yeah, I just think he's in pain, but he needs to do some serious conversational and decompressing with a therapist. And not every therapist is great, but he should at least be actively trying to find a good one that can match, you know, what he wants to be vulnerable with.
Facts. I think the more I do back up what JR is saying, Tyrese being in pain, but I think the more he spends time online, literally venting out his issues to people that don't really care like that, the more his brand and his perception is going down the drain more and more and more. I mean, we're talking about a guy who, unfortunately, when he had that outburst a long time ago, like what do you want from me? That became a meme. I don't think he's someone who's respected as much in the Hollywood industry. He's been punked by The Rock. He's been made fun of by Ludacris. He's been made fun of by Kevin Hart. He's had his issues, tumultuous issues in relationships, and he's the same person that'll be coming up with motivational videos, talking about his faith in God at times. So his brand has definitely taken a hit in this instance. And now, yes, whatever issues he's had with his ex, the fact that he's still choosing to post about his ex-wife in this kind of way, he is not going to win the favor of the public. The courts of public opinion are not in his favor. Definitely not. They're not. So for the fact for him to do stuff like that and he's not in a place of self-reflection, it's going to take time for him. But the more he does stuff like this, I can just see in the next 2 years, somewhere along the line, they're going to meme this thing out of him. They're just going to meme it out of him. It's not a good look for him at all whatsoever. It just isn't. Because it just comes across as, number one, being petty. And when he's now saying, you're telling to the world, you guys are bullies, this whole thing is transactional, all of this could have been handled offline. And I wonder if he has people in his corner that are literally holding him accountable, friends that are actually going to tell him, look, bro, stop doing this to yourself. Stop it. You're self-sabotaging yourself. Does he have anyone in his corner that's really checking him like this? Because the more he does stuff like this, people find it difficult to take him seriously, which is what I have an issue with. I don't have an issue with him wanting to speak, but I think expecting the world to feel sorry for you is not the way to go about it. It just isn't.
I'll go next. So, outside of his relationships or whichever one he refers to, first of all, I feel like Tyrese is currently going through some sort of awakening, some sort of spiritual awakening with other things that he talks about. But his spirit is in conflict. One, because of his lifestyle, and two, because of what he's been through and his trauma. And what he is doing, me personally, he is projecting. However, on one sense, I also feel like it needs to be okay for a man to talk about a situation where he feels he has been duped. Do I feel like he's doing it in the right way? No. I understand why a lot of women are being turned off, why they find, okay, this is very unattractive, and why they question, why do you keep doing this when you've got a missus there who you say you love? Does she not feel uncomfortable? And why did you make a whole album dedicated to your ex-wife? I think those are issues to address where something deep is going on within him, and he is not currently at the place where he is dealing with it properly. So he's taking it out on the ex-wife. What I'll also say is we are not privy to what's been said in the court, the things that are said behind the scenes, to the things that are going on. We're not privy to it at all. Also, I think he's still even on whatever drugs or antidepressants that he's on. I feel like he is still on them to be doing these certain things. And that's not an excuse for him or anything like that. That's just an understanding. What's inside is easily coming out, and it's a concern for everybody. If I knew him, I would call him and say, bruh, stop the madness. What are you doing? Like, this is not a place. Even if you feel like you're trying to, I guess, meet the conversation that's happening now around women taking, being with men for the money, etc. Even if you feel like you're trying to throw that conversation out there, how it's coming across is not in any positive way at all. and it's not doing you any favors. It's not, you know, Mr. R&B smooth man. It's you know, it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So you need to relax a bit. For me, and it's one thing that I've said for years now, this guy needs some serious help. I don't think he should be in a relationship with anybody. I don't feel like he should be on Instagram right now. He needs some serious help, serious therapy, serious counseling, because there's obviously abandonment and other issues that he's been dealing with since before he was with his ex-wife, which is another issue. I remember when everything happened, and I think it was like a December, and he started posting, I need to be a better husband, I need to do this, I need to do that. Oh, I mark my words, I'm going to win her back. And I was like, wow, what happened? So when he says he doesn't know why, I mean, you can't go saying you want to win her back, you need to be a better husband, to saying you don't know why. You know, there obviously something happened. You probably don't see it as that serious for her to divorce, but something obviously happened. But are you dealing with that? Are you actually having a conversation that you actually need to have with yourself? To me, that's not happening. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like the way he loved her, he still loves her that way. He still wants her back. And I don't remember what the new girl's name is, but she is being used as a crutch, which a lot of people do. And it's bad to see, because they have their own toxic relationship anyway.
Facts.
Yeah, it's terrible, man. And
But even to add on to that, is that one could also further with that, if he is not able to have a handle on his own emotions, it could also lead to some people to think that he's being emotionally manipulative in this kind of way. Because the same way, you know how Jonah Hill's ex was basically being so damn petty to try and now talk on Jonah Hill's new relationship Tyrese, if he's in a loving relationship now currently with the person he's with, why are you still inferring your ex in this situation, in this matter now? So like, you clearly have not moved on, and you're using the person you're with as a coping mechanism, or as a get back over your ex-wife that you clearly are still not over. So it's not, again, it does not look good for him. Already now, he is on a business tip, he's affecting his own brand, because no business is going to want to deal with someone with bad publicity like this. Apart from Fast and Furious, he's not really hitting blockbuster hits like that anymore, right? He's had his time, really. So doing all of this stuff is going to have a massive toll on his mental health. And the person that he's with, she's going to feel the brunt of the effect of it. I don't think that his ex-wife is going to feel too much of the effect as of much. She's not saying too much. She's handling the issues in the court. He's trying to take his issues out on the court of public opinion. So he's not, I don't understand why people think it's a good idea to go on social media and post your issues, venting, because really and truly, who is really going to care? Who is really going to care about this situation with Tyrese? Already, he's been memed, and he still thinks he has love like that. It doesn't work that way for him. It doesn't.
Would you...
Go ahead, Precious.
No, it's fine. You go.
Thank you. I don't like the pettiness. He's not just sharing on social media in a mature way or a self-reflective way. He is being petty. And I'm sorry, that's what I expect from a teenage girl, not from a grown man. And that's just how I feel about it. And I think that what I was saying to you guys in the private chat, I think that he sees himself as some sort of, I think that he believes that it's his responsibility to warn people and to not allow people to go into the same scenario that he's been in. What I want to see, because I watched the hour interview with him talking about, the marriage, and he felt completely blindsided by her leaving, Samantha Lee. He felt blindsided, and I can understand the pain and the hurt that comes from that. But even from his account, because we don't have hers yet, even from his account, I'm like, there are things that I believed he missed in regards to why she left, but that can't be confirmed just yet. I just want to know what really happened from both sides. But I don't know whether he's trying to do catharsis or I don't know what his reason why he's doing this is for. I don't really get it. But I don't like the pettiness. I really don't. It's very unbecoming.
Charlene, it is. It is. It has to be catharsis through pettiness, basically.
Mm.
Because what's happening is, you said yes. Yes, he's definitely in pain, and he might even be counseling people through his pain. We got a whole group that are counseling people through their pain. I believe it's called the Manosphere. That's basically what they are. They're literally counseling men through their pain. They're giving skewed half truths about what is going on. That's what Tyrese is somewhat doing. He's giving a skewed truth based upon his own experiences with his ex-wife. But when you're doing stuff like that, you're only telling the situation on a one-sided perspective, and he's missing probably the red flags that are within himself. So he's not going to be able to take accountability for his own actions within the relationship that he contributed to. So if he is suffering and is dealing with his own internal pain, he has no business talking on a public platform if he has not healed as of yet. Because then now, how can he be in a position to tell other people how to navigate in certain relationships if his one is not successful as of yet? And more importantly, if he can't recognize that, look, I'm in a state of pain. Yes, maybe I'm going through all sorts of different situations. I'm having a crisis right now in my own spiritual walk, in my own mental areas. If I can't recognize that and I'm still choosing to come out and do what I'm doing, he's not going to get the validation that he's seeking for when he has to do the self-work within himself.
And in front of the girlfriend.
Oh,
It says a lot about their relationship that he feels comfortable to be petty and to vent in this way in front of her.
Yep.
That I think that's disrespectful, actually, but she seems to be holding space for it. So people choose what they choose, you know. But
publicly, though,
I could never.
Publicly, like, it's one thing, you want to basically and tell your girlfriend about the ex, but to do it on a public platform.
But I'm saying though that she's chosen, and this is a choice, and it is what it is. But me, I must say, mad.
Can I just say this here? If it was the other way around, we'll be telling the guy that you're an idiot. People will be going for him. So there shouldn't be any difference. Like what Tyrese is doing, not just to the ex, but to his current girlfriend, is embarrassing. And it's disrespectful.
It is. It's disrespectful.
And I missed out key context. In December, he was saying, I want to fight for my wife, etc. In February, he went public with this girlfriend. That's 2 months, less than 2 months. This is how ridiculous it gets. So we can all see exactly what he's doing. She must have her own issues or whatever's going on, because I mean, why are you still there seeing this and putting up with this? Again, attachment and things like that are quite. There are big things to discuss. We can all talk about it as well.
But I was gonna say, didn't they also make a video where she said she was more attracted to guy that passed away from Fast and Furious? Him.
That's disrespectful as well.
Exactly. Yep. So if he's petty, then she's definitely gonna get payback for that, right? Because that was on a social media platform, and that probably took him by surprise and damaged his self-esteem a lot too. But I just think he needs to do all of this in private. And the problem with something you said earlier about him counseling other people is, everybody has a platform. If you got a smartphone, you got an Instagram account, you got a Facebook account, you got a YouTube account. Like if you're someone who has the celebrity status as he does, his audience can be wide reaching. And yeah, Jay, you're right, man. Like if it was the other way around, and we do see women vent about guys too, with some serious venom on social media about what they're going through. We don't elicit the same level of response when that happens, because unfortunately we live in a place where that double standard is going to exist. But I don't think it's right for anybody to be airing out your dirty laundry. If you got problems with your ex, then you need to get counseling, or if you don't need counseling, because not everybody needs counseling. If you can handle your emotions, you're self-aware, you know what the problem is, and you're strong enough to be able to not repeat the cycles, you don't need counseling. But don't bring your baggage into your next relationship. Even if it does mean taking time out to be by yourself or whatever, the worst thing you can do is punish somebody new for what somebody in your past did to you. And Tyrese, he's at a stage where, people are beginning to get fed up with it. I get it. But, he's going to keep doing it because he feels very justified in how he's going about this, which is why he keeps on doing it.
And the internet lives forever. When you've moved on and you're in your healthy, happy relationship in the future, the things that you've said about your ex, they live forever.
That's why you need some shame and you need some class by yourself. You need some shame and you need some class. But no, I hear what you guys are saying. I personally, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell if he's getting treated differently because he's done a lot of speaking. So it's like after a while, even myself. And do you know what it is? I guess this comes down to. I think this comes down to even the question we said earlier on about how many times can you kind of like deal with somebody before you kind of get annoyed at your friend, right? I think the biggest issue is that with someone like Tyrese and other people like him, whether it's man or woman, is that they're bleeding. And that is frustrating when you keep on bleeding all over me. It's like you're getting my clothes wet, bro. And pause on that. But you're getting me, all your blood is leaking all over me. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas if somebody is either one, self-aware, or they are in their healing phase, they tend to give out stuff that actually is beneficial to people, right? Because all it looks like is you're whinging. And after a while, whinging can only take you so far before someone says, strap up your boots and get on with life, man or woman. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think what I'm trying to see from Tyrese now is, where's that growth? Yeah, because you've been chatting about this girl for a long time. You've been talking about this girl for a very long time. Where is the introspective work where you're like, do you know what? Let me take some accountability. Like there was things I'm looking back at now, blah, 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 blah. Give people some gems, because all it looks like is you just keep blaming this woman that she's a devil, she's a witch, she's this, she's that, she's taking all your money, and she take your money. She has done that. But the reality is it ain't going to change. She's taking your money. So what now? You know what I mean? If every day is going to be a whinge about her, it gets frustrating. If you're going to talk about how the justice system is unfair to men, then make it about the justice system calling to men, but don't be whinging. You know what I mean? Like, let's have some effective plans. Like, hey, look, I'm looking into this and I've studied this as well, and I understand. And I think people are always looking for a bit of balance. You know what I mean? When you're bringing something to the table, and I just don't feel like Tyrese gives me balance. And every time he talks about his ex, I think the last one, like Charlene was talking about that hour video, when I watched it, I think the thing that I noticed was, Tyrese. I feel like Tyrese, he go and join the club. He got the mummy issues. Okay, he can join the club. He got the mummy issues. It affects his attachments. It affects how he deals with women. He's got a sharp tongue. His mum obviously was very rude. Rude at points in time, and her tongue was very destructive to him at points in time. And actually, he has some of that. So and that's what I'm trying to say about being self-introspective, starting to see that how what did I contribute towards my marriage? And you're right, Jay. There is no way. And let me tell you this now. When men are surprised that their woman has suddenly left them, the reason is because you never were paying any attention to them. So you shouldn't be surprised.
So
Like, you know what I mean? Because you weren't paying attention. Because there's no way. I haven't had any relationship I've been in that I've been like, I'm so surprised that now this relationship is coming to an end, or you're gonna want to go somewhere. I've never had it, because if you're really in it, you are paying attention to things that happen. You're seeing that person drifting. You're seeing that this person is no longer connected. You're seeing things are not really going the way it used to go. The feelings are not necessarily the same. The passion is the same, which means you can start attributing, saying, I'm starting to see a few things are happening. Not really, things not going the right way in a relationship. You can start pinpointing several things. So the mere fact he said that he doesn't know what went wrong in that relationship tells me that he is a bigger problem than he actually wants to let out. And that, for me personally, where's that accountability? And my final point is, then we saw a little bit of the danger that he had, right? I think he likes his mean girls. Okay, he likes these little mean girls that have a sharp tongue, a little bit of a bitch in them. He likes them type of gal, because even the current girl, right? The current girl, when she dropped that bar about Paul Walker and said, I kind of fancy Paul Walker, whatever, knowing that was his best friend, that's the kind of woman you like, Tyrese. And this is what I'm saying about taking accountability. At what point will you say that it's the woman, it's not a woman anymore, it's who I keep choosing. It is my choice. I keep choosing a certain person. Your therapist should be calling you out and say, hey, bro, stop bleeding on the internet, get off there and speak to me. Because right now, you're not helping you. You're not helping people around you. You're just ranting and just raving. And after a while, it becomes boring. It's mundane. It's tiring. Nobody wants to hear it anymore, because there's no self-reflection, no introspection. There's no depth. There's no wisdom coming from it. It's just you crying and bleeding on my screen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Any last thoughts before we wrap it up? Because we're hitting the 2-hour mark.
I'll just say, Coach, I agree with you, right? And when you was talking, there's something that I remembered as well. When him and Zelly have broken up their off and on behavior, when he posts and the way he then talks about her in that moment is very, what's the word I'm looking, very spiteful. So that normally reads that there is an issue that he has with women in general. Just like we've seen how some women talk very spiteful when it comes to men. We know that they're deep down, there's some sort of issue right there. Like, so it's quite obvious to see. And, he was talking like this with his other prior ex-wife anyway. So I can fully understand that there is deep-rooted issues that he has. Not when it comes to women, but also really it's attached to love or the lack thereof, or his abandonment issues, or whatever he thinks that he needs to feel. Because all of this public displays or whatever he's doing on social media as well is a way for him to feel his ego, is a way for him to feel validated. I feel like he's someone that some of these big expressions is a way that he feels, like a man, or that he feels wanted. But where he's lacking is probably in more of the internal private department, which this is not fact what I'm saying. I'm just going to give my opinion. This reminds me of men and women who deep down don't like themselves. There's something of them that they know, this is very hard for me to work on, and it's easier for me to project than it is for me to actually deal with it. As long as I can do this and get this person to love me, then I don't have to deal with it. As long as I can attach myself to these issues and throw the blame and say this, then I don't have to deal with it. This is what it's reminding me of, which is why it's scary to me. Because I don't want to hear him and Zelly getting married. They're not engaged, are they? But I don't want to hear nothing about that. Because, I'll say it again, he needs to just be single. Spend some serious time working on himself.
Yep.
Don't even do music. Don't even do anything. We don't need to hear it in music. Just seriously, bro, just exhale. Because right now you're not even surviving. You're just I don't know what to use, man.
Yeah, but then Jay, that also comes with the fact that if you don't understand truly what love is it really love, or is it simply just obsession? Because if he is literally going after someone, saying, oh, I'm a fight for this person, and then now at the same breath you're so spiteful about them, is it your understanding of love that is skewed? because from what we're now seeing, it's basically obsession at this point. You're obsessed about wanting to get back at her, and that same obsession you use to try and get her, to get her to love you, basically.
I agree that, to be honest. I definitely agree that obsession kind of energy that he has. But yeah, right, Jay, as well. The way he posts after Roselli, I remember that as well. Everything just became just so she's this, and this, and this. And I was like, oh. I mean, I'm not saying that the part of it isn't true, because clearly you keep choosing these type of women, right? But it's like, yeah, even so, like, you know, keeping a little coverage of that person. Sometimes you just need to protect that kind of person, but sometimes you're protecting you by protecting that person, right? You don't have to expose everything. You know what I mean? Especially when you're in a period of time when you're still hurt. And that's what I'm trying to say about Tyrese. He talks out of season all the time. And it's somebody who's not emotionally regulated very well, and is always emotionally reactive. And they're dangerous people, because they react in their emotional arousal state. Like when they're at the height of their anger, they're reacting. When the height of their sadness, they're reacting. When in the height of whenever their emotions at the height and peak, they react in it. Which means we're not getting your true. We're always going to be at the mercy of the whim of whatever you feel, rather than really giving us, you know, a healed state of affairs and giving us a more mature response. You break up with a girl, the first thing you know, it reminds me when I was young, like when I was super young, like you break up with a girl, you go on Facebook, we've broken up, or you go on Facebook, you type in like, you know what, love don't even mean nothing no more. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you type those things on Facebook because you were stressed and you needed to release. And so you have to put the Facebook status. Everybody knows that you're in a situation right now. Your girl's not with you or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But we are grown individuals, and at some point you have to learn how to regulate how you're feeling and not just to react in that moment. And yeah, the Zelly thing, I remember him just posting up about her, and so I was surprised when he got back with her. But now we see the pattern of behavior. As much as I think that, you know, Samantha Lee might have her issues, Tyrese is a big boy issue, and I need him to sit down the bench, and I'm gonna need him to heal. Okay, I don't even need him to heal. Real big stuff. Sorry, Charlie, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, I told you guys this in the private chat, but during that 1 hour interview that you also watched, Kojo, I'll never forget when he recalled, so they're post her moving out by this point, and he recalled an incident where she came to the house to drop off the child, and he was like in his office, like peeking through the blinds, and she couldn't see him, but he could see her. So she's pulled up to the house, dropped off the kid. He's watching the whole thing, and I think the nanny must have went to meet her to, you know, do the exchange with the kid and everything. And he said that what he was waiting for was for her to look at the house and have this expression on her face where she's wistful and remorseful, and to look at what she walked out on. And because she didn't do that, because she didn't express that emotion at that time of his choosing, that it proved that she no longer loved him. And I thought to myself, look at that. This is such a massive immature projection that you are putting on this woman for her to behave in a certain way of your choosing, in order for her to prove that she was never in it for just the money. And I'm wondering, where else did that show up in the marriage? What specific things did you expect from her that you didn't get? And now you're saying, oh, she didn't love me. And like I said earlier, I'm waiting for her account. If she says it, if she tells it about what happened from her perspective. But I agree with you, Kojo. I think there's things that he missed. I don't think, and I think they were told to him. I think that they were talked about, but I don't think that perhaps he validated them. And so when she actually did walk out, it would have been a case of, I'm blindsided. You weren't. I don't think he was. So, like I said, I'm waiting to see what really happens. But that account of how he described her, That struck me, man. I'm like, this is some emotional BS, emotional, immature BS. Yeah,
Coach,
that's
quick question. Go, Chris.
I was just gonna say, I just think that a lot of the times when people have those like emotional outbursts and they're doing it like in public, like how you were saying, Koja, about, you know, you'd post a status. A lot of that is wanting that validation of how you're feeling because you're not getting the validation from the specific person that has caused that pain. And I think for Tyrese, he's clearly wanting to get the validation from his fans because it's an easy grab, and there's almost some there's very self-entitled stuff that comes in that sort of relationship between the celebrity and the fans. And obviously he clearly is getting some validation from some of his fans, because otherwise I don't think he would continue to do it. I think, yeah, he still clearly is in love, or at least loves his ex-wife, or still feels hurt by her leaving. But I think because of the nature of who, I think he probably found somebody who is similar to how his ex-wife was, but just younger, in a way to, I guess, as a way to use that to, you know, how that happens when a lot of these older men come out of a marriage, they then find someone incredibly young as a way to kind of get that validation again of still feeling kind of, you know, in the realm of being wanted. And even his comments about him saying, you know, whoever dates my ex-wife next, I feel sorry for you, or that just indicates there's still a lot of kind of wanting to, I guess, control the narrative. It all just feels like he's just trying to control the narrative. Either something is about to come out, or he feels that when she does start to speak, the narrative will be taken away from him, and the idea of the Tyrese that he, I guess, portrays of kind of being the alpha male that he used, which is just a grating thing, but you know, it is what it is. That kind of facade gets torn down and it gets destroyed. And it's kind of interesting because even though I like to also understand what he deems as an alpha male, because I guess in the quintessential meaning of an alpha male, what he's doing right now would not be what an alpha male would do. But
he's an alpha male. Did he say he's an alpha male?
Yeah, in the video that when he was talking about his wife, you know, whoever's dating his wife, he was like, you know, as an alpha male like me, I'm like, an alpha male. Exactly. Yeah, like I don't believe in all that stuff, but even if I did, you're not acting like an alpha male. An alpha male would not be on social media talking about this. An alpha male would have kept it pushing. He would act like you don't exist, and he would move on. So I don't know. I think it's clearly there's some self-worth, self-esteem issues going on there. There's that need of validation that people can see that he's the victim, he's been hurt. And I know, and he probably has been, he probably is, you know, he was really devastated when his wife decided to leave. But I think it's also that element of kind of what I was saying before, is that sometimes it stings a bit more when you are the one that's left. Not because you actually want to be in that relationship, or not because you actually love that person, but it's an ego thing. I think he's acting out of a lot of ego at the moment. He's not acting out of, oh, I'm hurt. It feels like it's acting out of the ego of, she left me. I'm Tyrese. Why would you leave me? And that's what it kind of feels like more than anything. So I don't know. It's just a bit bizarre. And I also just want to point out, people in the chat are hilarious talking about how Paul Walker was better than Tyrese. That is absolutely, people are really going in there. And I'm cracking up at the chat. I think someone even mentioned Henry Cavill, and I'm like, yes, sis, talk about it. But anyways, back to Tyrese. Look at Kendra's face. Don't hate, Kojo.
No, I
it's
am.
Okay.
Don't worry about that.
Don't hate. Henry Cavill was the one. I can't lie. I'm not gonna lie to you.
He's a good looking dude. You know what I mean?
I met him, and he's even better looking in person. I'm telling you now.
I can imagine. He looks like a tall guy. Looks well built. You know what I mean?
he's
In Witcher,
he's
I mean,
lovely.
so the brother looking
He-
good. I mean,
No, he's genuinely a lovely person as well. He's great.
Yeah.
did you get his number while you're there? You said you met him. So you say
I mean, I would have loved to, but you know, there's a 13-year age difference, Kojo.
what? Is he younger than you?
No, he's older than me.
Sorry, older than you. Yes, I meant older than you. So he's older than you by 13 years. Oh, that's
Yeah.
nothing. That's perfect.
I mean, I'd be okay with a 13-year age gap if it's Henry Gravel. I
That's
can't lie.
easy.
I'll rock with
You
it.
don't cook, you don't clean, but you're gonna tell you how you got this ring. You know what I'm saying to you? You feel me? Cavill. All right, listen. Any last thoughts before we get off here, guys? Any last thoughts? Any wrap up thoughts? Keep it short to a minute. Any wrap up thoughts?
Keep your business of social media.
Amen.
Amen.
Preach on. Stop it,
Amen.
please.
I
Keep
just
on.
want to add something important as well, right? Samantha Lee was on Dear Future Wifey podcast a year ago,
I watched that video.
and he asked her, "Why did you marry her?" I think they're trying to talk in code. Long story short,
Speak on it, bro.
long story short, he felt that she was the woman that God. What's the term I'm looking for? That God called him to be with. He said he was praying, etc. So that gives context in terms of how he saw her and how he felt about her. And she also felt, this is my teammate. This is the type of man that A, B, C, D, E. So yeah, it's a lot more than just I love you. There's also a spiritual aspect of which they both felt. So this is something big.
And I need to go watch that video again. So I remember I watched it, and I was going to dissect it. And I didn't get around to doing it. But that particular interview, was not someone saying calling crypto dollar, but that interview was quite interesting, right? Because I think she mentioned some stuff about also how she was her upbringing and how she also had dealt with other men in the past. That's why I said that she's nowhere near innocent, because some of the things that she mentioned in the past, that don't just go away. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, but it's interesting because I don't think she ever fully mentioned what the reason was the relationship came to an end. And that's what gave me pause too. I'm like, did y'all sign an NDA, or you don't want to say what he did or what he don't want to say? What nobody's really speaking about what actually happened, so no one really knows exactly what really went down and went wrong in that relationship. It's probably a culmination of different things and probably little things that kept on happening. You know what I mean? I personally think that, you know what it is? I just think that both of them are very headstrong. I bet that sharp mouth started saying some things. I bet her sharp mouth hit him back too. And he real sensitive. So you gonna hit him, he gonna get hit back. You know how we gonna take it. It's gonna be war. You know what I mean? I think there was probably that level that was happening with them that wasn't necessary. It's hard to explain what actually happened. You know what I mean? Where you're kind of tit for tatting and stuff. So yeah, I'll definitely go watch that again to try and get the answers. Cause I remember I watched that and I was like, oh, but I didn't get all the answers. So we'll see. And also as well, I don't know if, and then this is my final point, I don't know if maybe also why she couldn't speak on it is because, and Jay, you kind of touched on it, right? Whether he has fully come over to the light side at that point in time of his life. Because I know she was very thing as well. Jay, are you right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
man, you're like what animal? I was like, blood, are you all right, blood?
Man forgot to take himself off mute.
You're lucky you didn't say that. Imagine, you were.
Like, basically, I've been getting a foot massage while we're having this conversation.
Oh, wow. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, damn.
I was like, whoa.
You need to tell if that's how you're selling with foot massage, you need to let me know where you get that foot massager from, please. Let me feel relaxed too, JR.
It's definitely relaxed.
Thing, fam.
Make sure you get one for Jay as well. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna shameless plug the company, but if you got one of these, if you know,
go for it. Shameless plug the company. That's
Uh,
not bad.
Come
So
on.
the EMS foot massager, it sends electronic pulses
EMS.
through the soles of
How
your
much is
feet.
it?
Is it heated?
No, it's not heated, but it's got like 10 different modes on it. Massage, knead, sends little pulses, currents, and things like that. It's like reflexology.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love how I only certain people in this live are going to understand this reference, but I love how this is when you're okay with using a machine. That's what I'm going to
Yo,
Yo,
It's exactly
that
what you said.
shade was wild. That came
Yo.
left field.
yo,
I'm
Precious,
talking out
This
the
doesn't-
stadium into the stadium.
this doesn't need batteries, Precious.
Listen, don't compete, collaborate, gentlemen. Don't
Darling,
fight
you-
it.
Then you want to go there? You want to go there?
It's getting hot in here. Guys, we're going. Take on, no,
Okay,
you
okay.